Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Good Tips. I'm trying out a new camera and some lights, so hopefully this looks a little bit better for y'all. We will see. Technology is the pit sometimes, but we're excited to have you. We're here doing another Good Tips for Hard Times where we find smart people who have great advice to help you get through your days. So thanks so much for joining us. I am Anita Sarkeesian, and I'm a media critic, public speaker, and the executive director of the Games and Online Harassment Hotline, which is a new upcoming emotional resource for the gaming community. And, this has been a really tough week for the gaming community. I think it's both really difficult and an important week. So many brave people have come forward about abuse in the games industry. And one of the things that we want to do with the hotline is to provide space for folks to have emotional support around these issues and resources around issues like this. So I'm really excited that we will hopefully be opening soon more information on that in the future. But I do want to commend those who have come forward and just acknowledge this moment that we're in, because I know it can be hard to witness. It can be hard to be a witness to this. It can be hard to tell your stories and your truths. But I'm also kind of excited about the topic we have today. It's a little bit lighter, but I think, relevant in some ways. We're going to be talking about how selfies and photography can help you feel a little better, can be a therapeutic and some self-care. So I'm really excited to bring on my guest, Aundre Larrow, who is a Florida native, Brooklyn-based portrait photographer who has spent the last 2 years shooting editorial and lifestyle content for his clients. He most recently shot the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge with the North Face, New York Fashion Week, and a portrait project about Amendment 4 in Florida. Throughout the years, he's always pursued the truth and can be found in portraiture and his current work in the next chapter of that. So, hi, Aundre.
Oh, hey, bud. I feel like I'm waiting in the green room is my own house, so I was just like,
Yeah, man. I feel like you are in a jungle paradise and I am trapped in a dungeon. So, that's what's up here. But I love your work. I'm so excited that you're coming on and doing this with us. And not only do I love your work is so infused with personal and political, like a lot of the sort of feminist ideals of what those things mean together, but also you're a really good teacher. And not to set you up here, but the times that I've gotten to be in spaces with you where you are teaching and sharing, what you know about photography is always been such a delightful experience. So thanks for doing this with us.
thank you. Thanks for having me on your show. Thanks for spending a bunch of time getting prepared. You said this, but it's important to remind everybody that the use of the word feminist and the use of the word anti-racist is a constant act of remembering that you are not the most important person in the world. And so everything we do needs to infuse those things.
Yeah. Yes. And the intersectionality of all of that. So okay, let's do this, because I actually am delighted to do something a little bit less intense this week.
Yeah.
It's been a big week. So
This week, this month, this year,
I
all
mean,
of life itself.
it's just like compounding, right? It's one thing
Yeah.
after another, and so I'm not not trying to isolate what's happening in games from anything else that's happening. It's just
No, I don't think so.
it's all piling and it's all related, and I think we're starting to see those connections. How they're all connected in various ways. Which who knew that a global pandemic and Black liberation and working to end abuse is connected. I mean, a lot of people did, but a lot of people didn't. So, anyways, okay. So, how, very briefly, I'd love to know how you got into photography, how you got into your vision of photography and the kinds of, work that you choose to do or that you're most passionate about.
Yeah, thank you. Hi to everyone on Twitch. It's my first time on Twitch. I'm so nervous. I don't know if you guys know this. Anita is like a top 100 person, which is scary for me. I'm in the other 70 million people. Anyway, so I started taking photos when I was in high school. I took a journalism class, like an intro to journalism, with a teacher named Mr. Thor. I've never told you this story. I think you'd like this man. He was very interesting. He used to do a lot of open shirts. He was a strange man, but we did a little photo component. And in that photo component, I had a lot of fun. And so After we gave the cameras back that we had for that like couple weeks, I started just taking photos with like disposable cameras and like kind of random things, and started making like little yearbooks from little moments, and it was kind of fun. And no shade to the people I went to high school with for their yearbook, but our yearbook wasn't that great, so I thought it was really fun to make my own yearbook. And so I would take a bunch of photos, and then my sophomore year, my theater teacher gave me one of his old cameras because he saw me always taking photos, and that was kind of it. So I used to like walk to Walgreens and buy film or get it processed. Um, and I have always taken photos of people because that's how I remember moments the best. Um, I don't know, like taking photos of places and landscapes, sunsets, etc., are really cool, but I, for some reason, can never figure out how to do it properly. And
It's hard. Landscape photography is
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
I
it's
don't think
difficult.
people really quite get like.
Yeah, don't let people lie to you. Like it is completely a different job entirely. But I always remember moments based on who I was with, or like, I mean, we all center based on ourselves. And so a lot of my photography is really like at eye level and my experience of what I'm noticing with another person. And so portraits are kind of like my way to remember that, like a yearbook and a love letter kind of match that. Then I
Um,
like went to college and all that stuff, but yeah.
yeah, nice. So when we were just chatting and you're like, let's do something together, and I was like, do you want to be on my show? And you were like, yeah, and I was like,
All the shows.
I was like, what can you do? You're like, this was an idea, like one of several ideas that you came up with around, like selfies as therapy. We've seen a lot in, over the years of I mean, selfies come way before social media, but, I've had several friends who participated in the, like, every day, like post a selfie every day, like show the fullness of our human experiences, ways to counter the experiences on Instagram that look like everyone's lives are perfect, because why would you want to post when you're crying or sad or miserable or, don't look your best? And so this resonated with me. This idea resonated with me in terms of like the power of some of this work, or the using this, right? The accessibility of this. So can you talk a little bit more about like why this appeals to you and why you think it's important?
Yeah, so like let's start by saying the baseline of this year, especially since March, has been really traumatic. Some people we like have died. Some people we like have reminded us how terrible humans are. We're stuck inside. Leadership is crumbling. We're worried about a virus we can't see, and so that has a big stress to it. Last week, my friend called me to tell me that her mom said I looked tired on my Instagram stories, and I was like, "Yikes!" Uh,
Are you serious?
yeah,
No.
I love her, Robin. I appreciate you. This is no shade. Um, and
And
um,
no shit.
and the reason why I think it's really helpful, especially in this time, to take self portraits, selfies, or otherwise, is it's a way to document how you were thinking and feeling. Um, this inspiration actually came from two women, my friend Savannah and my friend Noemi. Um, Savannah did a project for like almost a month and a half where she took pandemic portraits of herself every single day, and I was looking forward to seeing it. And so that led me to just try to take more photos of myself. And then Noemi does these beautiful videos that she directs of herself talking about how she feels. Um, and to be honest, the biggest thing about it is I was talking to my friend Joe Morgan, and we were talking about how wildly our weights fluctuate and body dysmorphia, and how weighing myself in this pandemic has been very frustrating and like emotionally draining. And I feel disappointed in myself a lot, but I also just feel so tired. And the idea of working out where I've already like read and did emails and all that stuff is really exhausting. And so in a way, taking photos of myself is a way to normalize this is what I look like, and that's okay, and have it be like a parchment of like a moment in time. And I think that that's been really good for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that resonates, right? Of like being hard on ourselves in terms of how our bodies look and feel in this moment, and our capacity to, um, you know, take care of ourselves the way that we may have used to have been able to, or like some people might be dealing with depression for the first time or ongoing, and how like challenging that is. And it can be hard, like even when you're like, yes, feminism, like accept all bodies, accept ourselves how we are and all that stuff, it's still really hard because we have been socialized in this space to be very judgmental of ourselves in all of
Yeah.
these ways.
Well,
So
shout
yeah.
out to everyone that has immigrant parents that whenever you come home, they're like, "You got fat."
Yeah,
You're like, "Thank you."
that's not just parents? My parents?
That's my time. I guess I'll just see myself out.
Okay, I seriously thought that was just my dad. I didn't know that was a universal
Nah.
experience. Man,
Oh no.
Side note here, my dad will literally do that to my friends when they walk in too, and I'm like, that's so shitty. You can't do that. And you can't do that to us either. That's awful, but shit.
Can't win. So yeah, this was really born out of that. And so something I wanted to bring up is think about even when you don't take a self-portrait, how aware you are of yourself when you're out in the world, when you pass store windows, sometimes when you look in someone's eyes deeply, when you're waiting to get on the subway and you see your reflection. Now that you're home, unless you have a lot of mirrors, our ability to judge and see ourselves or even present ourselves in how we dress up and possibly put makeup on, do our hair, all those things are kind of stripped away. So our likelihood of finding value can be really diminished because a lot of that process of preparing ourselves to the world, we've had to abandon it. I mean, you don't have to, but I'm not putting on like a pencil skirt to get on this call. Like I'm wearing shorts. It's whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important. Like on some level, not that we should normalize this period of isolation, but giving ourselves motivation and moments to look at ourselves as ourselves is better than the alternative, which is to ignore it and like allow yourself to be further frustrated, saddened, etc.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, let's talk about like what this means, right? I think that there's a difference, for those of us who have been on the other side of professional photographers, there's a difference in having your portrait taken, and also taking your own portrait, right? Like, but that I think that those experiences can be related as well. But most people probably haven't had professional photos taken, right? I'm assuming. I don't know if that's a comment. I think my life experience is slightly different, right?
You? No.
It's a little weird. My life is weird sometimes. But that is definitely like that. It's such a different experience for me, right? To have my photo taken by somebody where you don't feel like you have control over it. And you're just like, cool, these are out there in the world, or they're out there with someone. Do I trust them to have these weird ass photos of my face, versus me trying to take my own photos and what that means.
Yeah. So we've talked about this before. We spoke when we were at a conference earlier this year. We talked a lot about it with our friend Jessica Zolomon, who's still my friend. I don't know how you feel about her.
Whatever. She abandoned LA. She's not my friend anymore.
And we talked about how it can be difficult to get your photo taken. And so I did want to spend a little time talking about that. But before we do, what has been your experience on a positive and a negative side of being photographed? Like, what do you like about it? What has been difficult?
Yeah, so I think for me, my relationship with the photographer is really important. And I didn't understand that for a long time because, and again, I don't mean to, so this is my experience and is not necessarily like, you don't have to have these kinds of experiences, but I've learned through this is that like random people like would be assigned to show up at my house and take pictures of me, right? And they don't know anything about me. They don't know anything about why they're photographing me. And they just like show up with like 5 people and set up a bunch of lights and say, go, right? And so like some of those people are know how to create an environment that makes me feel safer or more excited or more confident. And some of them are just like, cool, taking some pictures and I don't know what I'm doing and they're not necessarily correcting me or, so to me that it took me a long time to realize that piece of it matters when you're, especially if you're like, I don't know, maybe you're getting wedding photos or photos with your kids or like, you're hiring someone to do that. Like talk to sorry, now I'm giving advice, but I'm like, talk to the photographer.
No, do it.
See if you like
Give those
them.
good tips for hard times.
Yeah, like that. So that made a difference. And I can see that in the photos. Like when I look back at some of them, I can see it and be like, yeah, I was not feeling this. And you can see it in my face. Or I can be like, I was having such a good time. Like that was a blast. I got along with that team really well. They made me feel confident and good. And, so that makes a huge, huge difference. The other thing that I've noticed is that I feel like actors learn how to control their face, right? I had one photographer tell me that she loves photographing actors the most because they have the most conscious way of positioning their facial muscles, right? I don't know what is happening with my face half the time. Like, I feel like I have a standard smile that works well, and I default to that all the time. But if I'm trying to do like soft but serious, I'm like, what does that look like? So half the time I think I'm smiling, I look like I'm gonna want to murder somebody. Like, I feel like a little bit of like setting up your face and your angles, to me, has been a bit of a challenge in trying to like have a variety of expressions. And as someone, for me, the way that I am represented in photos, especially in the press, is really important because of the stereotypes around feminism, because of the stereotypes about my work. I once had someone. This was particularly egregious, but newspaper photographers, they don't edit, right? Like, the idea is that you're supposed to represent the experience as it is. So I had a New York Times photographer like fly into my house in the middle of Gamergate, like the week that a lot of that stuff was happening, and take photos of me, not knowing why he was taking photos of me. So this strange man is in my house, very insensitive to anything that is happening because he wasn't aware of it, and he kept trying to get me to like position myself into a ball, like to get a little bit like closed off to, and I was like, you don't know why you're photographing me right now, and I'm not okay with being that victim image. So, you know, finding the confidence to talk back to my photographers and be like, I'm not willing to do that, was another experience that I had. I feel like this is a little bit outside of the range of what we're talking about, but like I've
It's
had
not.
yeah, I've had
It's
like
not.
good and
Here's
bad
why.
experiences in that regard.
It's totally not out of the range. So to speak on that, and love the New York Times. Shout out to Brent Lewis. But when I was doing a
It
project
was
about
it
Amendment
was a
4,
contractor. Like, it's not like, yeah.
one of the subjects that we had, Amendment 4 is something you voted on in 2018 in Florida that allowed people that were formerly incarcerated the right to vote. And in Florida, Kentucky, and Iowa in 2018, if you were convicted of a felony, you no longer could vote anymore. And so when we were photographing this man, Joey Galasso, he said when he got his photo taken, he was wrongly convicted of a charge and later freed, but he was spent a while in prison. And the photographer insisted that they wanted to shoot him at the location that this like supposed robbery took place. And he said, absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. And so the first reason why self-portraiture is important is actually preparing yourself to know what you want and what you don't want. I think we talk a lot about this, and people will say they don't understand it, but body language and cues is one of the best ways to tell a story in like through photography or through yourself. So it's the cues that let you know if we're on the subway and I see you and you're like, oh, he's interesting looking. Like, maybe I want to write about him in my book. Maybe I want to go on a date with this person. All these things are like things that in some level, like our body language reveals. And I think for some reason, when we're getting photographed, we become so self-conscious, we kind of throw out what body language can reveal. So like me slouching, me sitting up and touching my face. Like, there are a lot of things that in a normal context, if we're with our loved ones, our friends, our family, we would recognize and say, oh, yeah, I know what that means. They don't need to tell me that they're unhappy or that they're joyous to see me or anything like that, because I recognize it. And so being able to slow down when you're taking portraits, and let's take a little bit of time with this, with yourself, to ask yourself how you're feeling, or even spending time looking in a mirror or taking a self-portrait is valuable, because you can just start to learn a little bit about yourself. So really quick for tips for all the cool people like Anita that need to get a lot of photos of themselves taken. First and foremost, if you can, have someone with you that is not involved in the organization or the story, but cares about you and can just say, hey, you look unhappy, you don't look rested. And if the photographer's okay with it and for some reason you're uncomfortable, you can have that person stand right behind the photographer and photograph and talk to you while you're being photographed. Just the voice of someone familiar can help you be at ease.
Yeah.
Second,
I love that advice. I feel like I've been alone a lot in these spaces, and I recently right before COVID, I did a photo shoot. Yeah, I did a photo shoot, and like I knew the photographer socially, but I wasn't sure like how well we get along, and I ended up hiring someone that I had worked with before to help with some wardrobe, and it really helped to have someone that I knew and trusted in that space, and I didn't realize how much I needed that to be like, you know, feeling more confident in the choices that I was making with like backdrop and environment and that sort of thing. So I I thought of that because you gave me that advice
Yep.
earlier this year, and it really made a difference.
Oh yeah. Second, and this goes for you specifically. Um, Anita's a little short. She's not super short. She's a little smaller,
I'm
and
I'm pretty short.
this is actually important because, and we'll talk about this when we're talking about self-portraiture. The angle with which you shoot people is important. Usually, I'm 5'11", right? So not you. Sorry, I am 5'11". Not usually. That's a statement. Then, um, generally the people that are plus or minus 2 or 3 inches in either direction, that's at my eye level. But when you're shooting people that are shorter than you or much shorter than you or much taller than you have to be very aware of what that comes out like. And we will talk about that. Actually, we'll mix these in. Could you actually
Yeah.
bring up um, image 8, 7, and 8?
Yeah. Let's do this. All right. So, y'all, sorry, I'm don't know. Okay, we're gonna do one at a time. Sorry, everyone at home. I'm still working on figuring that out. We're gonna do 8 first, and then I'll put on 7 when you want me to, because both of them on
Great.
screen is a lot.
So actually, I lied. We're going to do 8 and we're going to do 2. So
Great.
this first, we're going to start with 8. So 8 is a picture that our good friend Jessica Zalman took of me at one of my first gallery shows. I was so excited. We were in LA. But I want to bring up the point that when you take a photo at a higher angle, think about when you see something that's below you, right? If you're in a plane, everything looks small. If it's a child, it looks generally smaller. But if you bend down to that child's level and you're talking to them, you see them eye level. And so when you're choosing to take a portrait, whether it's a self-portrait or a selfie, choosing a very high angle to look down on yourself can make you seem younger. It can also make you seem smaller. And let's say, for example, we're taking that portrait of Anita in the middle of Gamergate. I'm not sure that that would be the most effective way to take that portrait. If I'm making her seem small, I'm making her seem weak, I'm making her seem like a victim, that will pair very poorly with the entire concept of this revolution of people paying attention to how we're treating women in this period of time, right? And so if we switch to number 2, you'll see a photo the same day that Karen Doolittle took. Shout out to Karen. That's me dressed exactly the same, but at a higher angle, almost at eye level. And you can see it's almost a little bit lower. Obviously, there's some different things mixed into the image, but I look a lot older, weirdly more refined. Part of that is that we're on a black background, and the other one is in a very light and bright area. But understanding the angle you choose is super, super valuable, right? And so when I say by high angle, like a lot of us are used to that, like MySpace. Like, hold on, let me make sure I can actually see this right. We used to that like our old MySpace photo where we're like taking it like this, right? And being understanding that when you don't like the best way to tell reveal truth in your portraits or in your selfies or when someone's taking a photo of you is with your eye contact, right? And so right now I'm talking to you with a camera that's on a tripod that's right around my eye level on purpose so that you can see me just how you'd see me if we're in a conversation. And so first and foremost, you want to be really, really aware of what angle you're choosing, because that will tell you a lot. The angle can help you take more than just a headshot. An angle can kind of show your whole body. But your angles are super, super important. And if you're unsure about what they are, you can play around, right? And so if you set up your phone, whatever phone you have, if you go over to your settings, or you check the top on the iPhone, if you just kind of swipe up, there is a little timer you can use. And I would really encourage you to either put a selfie-facing video, place it level at eye level, and just move your body around. That like little bit of self-study, even if you don't take anything, can be really helpful. So what do I mean by move your body around? I mean like while you're making eye contact, I want you to just, instead of giving me a straight on, like we're taking like a mug shot or a congressional headshot, try a shoulder, right? Try turning your head more. There's a photo that Anita has that I would love if she put up right now. That's a headshot of you that is a profile.
Sure.
And she was talking about how she doesn't really love profiles, which I disagree with. I think that this picture of her is very strong.
I will say, I'm gonna awkwardly, I don't know where to put this on the screen. I was using this as an example because I used to hate profile shots of me, and then I didn't even really like this photographer. I don't feel like we got along super well, and I found these photos and really liked them, and it changed. It gave me an opportunity to see a different angle of myself that I wasn't willing to see before because somebody came in and just did it, right? And so,
Yeah.
I'd love people to experiment with different angles that you might think you hate, and they might grow on you.
Yeah, I like this picture of you for a couple reasons. The color in your hair right now and where you're well at that point, I can't see your whole hair right now. Does really it's really nice with the lipstick choice, not your lip choice. You change your lips out. But you're in this image. We're moving across the image from the top right past your eyes down to your hair. And this profile is kind of nice. It feels contemplative. And maybe that is something that the photographer will kind of have you see, but more than likely it's something that you can learn about yourself. So we can set up our camera and we can start practicing. So would you so kindly play that video? I think it's the third one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
Right.
I am gonna throw on a short little video right now, everyone.
It's only a bit, but now we're in my room. Whoa, crazy, right? Okay. So we're gonna talk about angles. We're taking a photo. Rocking the Mirabelle shirt for my friend. A lower angle can be cool if you want to take in the whole room, if you want to seem very large, but I think often right now we're all feeling kind of sad. And as we lower ourselves, there's a vulnerability that comes from a higher angle, right? It's not the MySpace like photo, but even just placing your camera somewhere higher, somewhere at eye level, it can feel more honest than if you place it too low or too high. If you're unsure how to do it, hang out in the mirror for a second and raise your hand throughout and see how it looks as you move it across. You're trying to figure out what perspective makes sense for your body. And the best way to do that is to try different stuff. So if I'm looking in the mirror, I can see myself. If I lower and raise this, I can start to see how the same photo looks very different. Using the mirror is helpful because it gives you a point to focus on and lets you know yourself a little bit better. And lastly, try standing, try sitting, try a lot of different things. But this is about exploring your body.
All right, we're back.
Cool.
Yeah,
It's such a weird experience for me because I can't see or hear it, but I know what it says.
I know. Yeah, my guests can't actually see what we're doing on screen when they come on, so I have to like talk you through it a little bit. But one of the things I was thinking about as I was watching that was how like on our phones, barring memory, like we have the opportunity to try so many things, and nobody ever has to see those. Like whether you're doing like. On professional shoots I've been on, the last one I did, there were 900 photos, and we trashed almost all of them. And like some of them were so unpleasant and awful to look at. Yeah. But like you have the opportunity to just take a ton of photos and like with no pressure, with no judgment, because like they're not all gonna work out.
And they're not, but that's the hit rate of everything in life. Like it's crazy that we go to elementary, middle, and high school, and they're like, "Yo, 50%'s an F." It's like, "Yo, if I'm 50% right in life, bro, I'll be rich as anything." Anyway, yeah. So like to give a better example of like angles, why don't we switch to lower angle? So let's do 3 and 4, please.
Okay.
So while she's pulling these up, Anita did a really good job of naming and numbering these, so that we can have the most professional possible one. This one's called Below in capital. There's a Thirsty, which I'm not sure we're going to get to.
I mean,
we all know who the hottest host in all of.
We might need to show the Thirsty
Twitch.
one eventually so they understand why I named it that. But yeah, we have number 3 below on screen now.
So this is a good example. This is a photo I took just randomly in selfie mode when my friend Brian, but he didn't stick his head in yet. And this photo is going to kind of pair into the first video we're going to see in a minute, which is all about the light that you choose. And so sometimes, like taking a selfie, Anita and I were talking about how we both do it when we travel a lot. But sometimes just in that moment, taking one a day can be a really good way to like figure out how you feel. And so this is a slightly lower angle. A lot of people fear this angle because they worry about what it does to their necks. And yes, I will agree. If you take something hella low, it's going to elongate your neck and your head. But I will say there are some positives. So for example, if you have like a weaker chin, that's not like a diss or anything. I have a very large head, so it's very obvious when it ends. But some people just have kind of like weaker chins. It can be a little bit more dangerous to take a low angle because it will flatten your face into your neck. But low angles can be cool when things can feel kind of large, or they can if you're like your background being what's large behind you is really interesting. That's a good way to do it. But I generally would avoid taking things that are much lower than this angle because very often they are just super, super unflattering. And then if we could go over to 4.
Yep, it's
Now
up. Ugh,
this is a slightly lower angle. My friend Emily Sullivan took this.
I
Shout
love
out to Emily
this photo
Sullivan.
so much.
We were in DC. We were lobbying to try to stop drilling in the Arctic, and this photo was a little bit lower. And I thought you can see this is slightly higher. So maybe the first photo we showed was maybe this low. This photo is a little closer to here. And the goal here is to kind of use the shadow of the Capitol to be an environmental portrait of what's going on. And so what might that look like for you in normal life? Well, maybe that means that if you take your self-care day, like let's say that coronavirus has disappeared for a second. Let's pretend. And I wanted to go down to Coney Island because I
It
love
hasn't
because
though. Just everyone realize it
and
hasn't
it has
because
not.
I'm
It
so
has not.
stressed out by people
In
not
fact,
realizing it's
wear,
gone. Anyways, please
wear a
continue.
mask.
So
Do all those
in our
things.
fantasy world where you get to go outside
In our
again.
fantasy world, you go outside, no consequences, and you go by yourself and just want to watch the sunset at Coney Island. If you want to take a self-portrait, a good way to do this would be bringing a little tripod, or even if you set it up for yourself and ask someone else to take it, just slightly low enough so you can see everything behind you. Environmental portraits are a cool way to honor both how you're feeling and where you are. And so just getting a slightly lower angle can be helpful and can kind of make you seem larger than life and can be helpful for my friends who are a little bit shorter because it's like a nice way to get a photo that if you shoot it at eye level but just a little bit below them, this still looks like you're talking to that person, but you don't you don't make it seem like they're too small in the frame. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool. Can we play the first video and talk a little bit about light?
Sure. Let's do that. All right. I am
I
gonna.
love,
Sorry.
I love it. Thank you. You're the best host.
All right. Let's throw this video on.
So always work with natural light. You can see this pretty rad, huge window sitting in the background, ignore all these bags and stuff. You always want to have the camera have its back to your main light source. And right now, especially for self-portraiture, that main light source for most people is the sun, which you can see through your windows. So since I'm facing the main light source, the camera's to the back of it, you'll see that we're getting nice even light across my face, and the camera can take a better portrait, right? It's a more even portrait, a flat portrait is good for headshots. If we want to get something moodier, we can take a step to the side. So you'll see now, this side of my face, you can see this little bright spot where the light is, and on this side's a little bit more shadow. If we're taking another step away, you'll see that this part is getting a little bit more shadow. If we turn more and we backlight it, sometimes this is cool to make a silhouette, but often we can overwhelm the sensor in our camera. So, the first step in taking a great portrait, self-portrait, is understanding your light. If you see a photo that you like and you're not sure how someone took it, always ask yourself, where's the light coming from? So here, we can see this light is coming from this side of my face. Here you can see the light is nice and even all the way across. Here, you can see the light's behind me. That'll help you take the best photo you can.
We are back.
Hey,
so lighting is
back.
so important, and also I think
is.
for me it's one of the hardest things for me to navigate and to figure out.
So we're gonna do like a quick sprint through some light. Okay.
Great.
So, can you pull up Andre Beefy since you think this is funny? And one of my friends just asked me to send him a life-size print of it, and he's rude. So I don't respect you, Colby. You're a
Okay.
great father, though. I love you.
I don't know if I still have that. That's not like one of the numbered ones. Hold on. Give me a minute.
No, it's right after. Yeah. It's in the folder.
Yes, but I only brought in 1 through 10. Sorry, everyone.
Okay, don't worry about it. No. Then don't worry about it.
I'll find it. Put on
let's
another
do
one and I'll grab it.
fancy. Let's do 05 and 06.
Okay, I'm
Please
putting
and thank you.
cool. I'm putting fancy on the screen, and I will grab beefy because I think people want to,
So fancy
Okay.
is important, and I promise you guys later you can look. I'm a real photographer. I'm not a narcissist, but I thought it would be better to just talk about photos of me because then you could see what I mean. I feel a lot of stress about my body. I feel like I should be thinner or like I should have been taller or whatever. So like all these things are things that I feel and are very real. And I think also what Anita said, and I really want to make sure people hear this. understanding what story, especially if it's a professional photo, what story your image is supposed to be told with is really, really important. Um, so get practice taking photos of yourself. So anyway, okay, this is a portrait of my friend getting married. He's the guy who's smiling closest to me on my right. But in case you're wondering where the light came from, we are facing a window, just like in that video. And like I said, you almost always want to, not all the time, but generally, you want to have your light source be strong. It can be soft, like you'll see that this light is pretty soft. There's not a ton of shadow, and it's strong enough that it's washing back and lighting all of these people around me, right? And so being aware of where your light is coming from is really good. If you see a lot of people who take good selfies, or if you just see a lot of portraits that you like, the first questions you should ask is, where's your light coming from? So I brought this little prop today to help you. Shout out to my friends at Lightroom who sent this to me in the mail.
Can you hold it up close to your face so people can see it on the camera?
Yeah. Let me double check. See, okay. So I don't know if you guys can see this because it shows it's way brighter. It's way brighter today than when we tested. But this light is a good example of understanding where your light comes from. You want your selfies to have really, really good light. Sometimes you'll see those professional portraits where you see like in someone's eye, you'll see like a little catch light. A lot of these are like the bigger, more professional versions of these. But what I mean by that is if you're getting good light, you want it to be in front of you, facing you, right? So that it can wrap around your face. You very rarely want light to be coming from underneath you. That's like a little Blair Witch Project. It's not a good idea. It goes back to that thing about not shooting from below because it'll just give you those raccoon eyes and make your neck look weird. On high is helpful. The only time that you should probably like practice that like MySpace angle thing is like with a highlight. You should not be doing it with a normal photo. But now that we have this light, as we move it around, you'll see like I said, if we're trying different angles for ourselves, once we set the angles we like, then we can start to play with our light. So let's say that I think Anita's left side of her face is her better side for whatever reason. And I want her to turn and face that. Then maybe I want that light to be coming from above her so that I can, above her to the right, so I can make sure that that side of her face is lit. And then we just get a little subtle shadow here to show some a little bit of intrigue. I'm not saying that all your photos need to be like the same washed out thing. I think there's a lot of room for dynamics. But your first step is understanding where your light's coming from, and understanding what angle you want. Number 2, where your light's coming from, and number 3, how those things pair together. And then, since we love to show bad examples, could we go to thirsty, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
There we go.
this light is I had a light up that I was using for a Bed Bath & Beyond commercial that I was shooting, and at the end of it I decided to face the light and take a photo. How can you tell if I'm facing the light? You'll see all across my face you don't really see any shadow. I'm sure we all remember graduating high school or college in some instances, or wherever you graduated from, you had those like weird hats, and you remember with the hat, we all graduated at like 11 a.m. for some reason, and you get outside and the sun is so strong you have this crazy shadow across your face, right? Because the sun, being our primary light source, is coming from up high. And so if for whatever reason you're taking your photo, you want to make, or however you're taking a photo, you want to make sure that the parts of you that you want to be seen are seen, right? And so in this portrait, the light is facing me, just like I said, and it's even all the way throughout. If we can go back to black and white below,
Yeah.
you'll see that I was in, I think, BAM, and there's all these stage lights coming from up high, so you can see how there's like highlights on my face, highlights on my hair, and so there's light wrapping all around me, but you can see the primary lights coming on the left side because you're seeing shadows on the right side. So sometimes to practice, it helps to just move a light around your face, or if you're not sure, like let's say you have a really strong window, things you can do to help you are to pull down a curtain, or even to just stick your hand out and start to turn it and see how the light and the shadow changes. Hopefully I have one that I can show for an example. Could you go to number 1, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. So for number 1, this room has a skylight. How can you tell? Because you'll see where the light's coming in, and that the light on my face and on the right side of my body is way brighter than the light behind me. And there's nowhere you can see a light. And so that skylight at a certain times of the day is really positive. You can get really good light from it, and maybe after the sun passes in the middle of the day, it's not as strong. So understanding where that light is, and taking selfies or self-portraits can kind of just be a nice way to say, this is what I look like at this time of the day. This is how I felt. And I promise you, scrolling back through those, you could understand that quicker than anything else. And you might turn around and be able to take better portraits of yourself later. Because the trust that you put in yourself right now will then translate to other people later.
Yeah, nice. Do you want? I'm just gonna show people Beefy because we promised them. So there you go.
Well,
Now you understand why I
so
called it Beefy. Look
Beefy,
at that.
shout out to my guy Carson Tanis for taking this. Carson's always trying to get me in trouble. Do you know what a hotep is?
Yes,
Anita?
I do.
Okay, after this, I'm gonna send you a picture my cousin made of Hotep Andre using this. It's pretty crazy. I got like the wild onk. Anyway, so this photo, the light's coming from. I'm actually gonna text it to you right now because it's that great.
Okay, we are live with an audience, so why don't you show it to me later?
Oh yeah, no, it's beautiful. So on the right, you can see the lights coming in from the right. How can you tell? If you look at my skin on the left side of my body, you'll see just a little bit of shadow. Nothing dramatic. You can still see me, but over here you see this like bright spot right on the top right part of my forehead. That lets you know where the light's coming from. Also, you can see it with the windows. If you even look at the setup I have, you can tell that if I move my face closer this way, all the light's coming in through here. Why is that important? Like we saw in that lighting video, how you move around a scene can do a lot. If you want to just get an accurate photo of what you look like that day, face a window. If you want to add a little intrigue, you can square your shoulders and turn yourself so that you're 90 degrees from the window. Backlighting can be cool sometimes if you want to make a little bit of mystery. All of this just requires your practice and trust in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. That's a lot. That's a lot of things.
I just said a lot all at once.
It was great. Everyone
going.
I'm poking into chat and seeing that y'all are really enjoying this. I am too. I told you he's a great teacher. I love listening to you talk.
Do you have
about
any questions? You can totally ask questions.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have said this, but chat, feel free to pop in with any questions you have, and we will bring them up. We'll go through them with the bit of time we have left. Did you want to go through any of these other videos or images that you have set up? We don't have to, but we can also.
No. I totally do. So can you go to Old Man, number 10?
Yeah. There you go.
I would never ever keep a mustache because I don't believe in it. The only person to rock a mustache effectively was Petey and Remember the Titans in like the future scene, but I'm not about it. But you can see that the difference here is I'm using a bathroom light, but you can see the light's coming from above based on my face. The light isn't as good, but you can still take portraits there. I would just encourage you, find the best light in your apartment, study yourself, and try to just take one photo of yourself a week. And if you have to use other light, you can. Other thing to point out, mixing light is bad. So there is a lamp, like a ceiling light, a lamp, whatever it's called, above me. The best way to describe it is if you look right now out the window, or even at my video, you'll see that everything seems white. That's because our eyes see the color spectrum of light from daylight as white. But if we turn on like our kitchen lamps or different lights, you'll see these different color temperatures, and like those matter a lot because if you turn two lights on at the same time, your camera's only going to be able to choose one as white and the other one's going to be a different color. Especially for my folks that are white or lighter skin for whatever reason, those things come up in your skin very obviously. And so just being really careful not to mix a ton of lights can be tough because I know we want to turn lights on and things, but just trying to make sure everything is in the same color temperature. How do you know? When you turn your phone on, if you put two lights next to each other and they're two different colors, then that's how you know.
Yes. We have some questions. Do you want to take a couple?
Yes.
Before we move on?
Do it.
Well, shout out Jess is in chat, so Jess J Zombie, you should definitely check out her work.
Yo, shout out Jessica.
An amazing photographer as well, and a friend of ours. She asks, what is your recommendation for when you or your subject is nervous before a shoot, or for shaking off that stiffness when you're taking selfies?
Okay, so if your subject is nervous, Jessica does a good job of this, and honestly, most women do because they understand how you can be made to feel uncomfortable. If someone's uncomfortable, I like to show them images of what I'm taking, or if I don't know them at all, making a mood board early is really helpful. A mood board that's different, so like a mood board for how we want to use light, how we want them to dress, and then one for poses. That can be really helpful to get people started. And then everything I take, I like to show them and ask them, especially early. But the point I was bringing up about women is, especially for male photographers, ask before you touch somebody. Say, hey, I just want to turn you and position you because I think that you're slouching, or I think that it'd be better if you give me some more of this angle. And if they say yes, cool. And if not, just stand not across from them, but next to them, so your shoulders are near each other, and show them how you want them to pose. If I'm facing you and I say, move your right leg, it'll just, the awkwardness of trying to figure out if I mean my right or your right can just be kind of weird. So give direction really calmly, mirror your actions, don't touch people unnecessarily. And then if you're taking selfies, that's a good question. I would always say just take more. Sometimes you're going to be stiff, and that is reflective of the time or how you feel, and that's good, I think. And I would just say take a lot of them. And even if you've like gotten to a point where you have nailed exactly how you think you want to look, take some things at some different angles and different scenarios so that you can make sure that you, what was I going to say, that you're capturing all of yourself.
Yeah, I really appreciate when photographers let me see the photos, because then I'm like, oh, I like that I'm doing this, or I don't like that I'm doing that. And I think that same, and that can build confidence in your subject as well. But I also feel like that's the same principle with selfies, right? Like, take a picture, look at it, adjust, and be like, cool, you adjust and you went way off course. And you're like, oh, that was awful, going back this way, right? Or making those little tweaks, I think is a similar process, just more solo. We have another question about the skylight selfie. In the skylight selfie, the neck shadow, was the neck shadow desired intentional? I guess you could get rid of that with a secondary light. What's behind the artistic decision of keeping it? Let me pull that back up so we can look at it. Which one was that one?
Oh, that is number one. That's bathroom.
Okay.
So, I didn't take a ton of. If I was really planning this out, I would have taken out the pure, like the soft soap bottles and stuff. I just thought that this was just really interesting light, and I wanted to capture it. But I do kind of like this world where my face is really bright, but my neck kind of disappears. So, but since there's that heavy shadow, you can tell where my face ends, and then it goes away quickly because you can see where the rest of my body starts. The reason why that actually is the sun's probably not perfectly. It's okay. So this is me right here. The sun, if it was directly above me, or slightly to the right or to the left, is going to give this effect, because the higher up it is, if light's coming down, it's going to stop on my chin, and then it'll start again, because in theory, like, my neck is hidden, and then all of a sudden, like, my chest starts. So if I wanted to not do that, I would either use a reflector that was underneath me, or I would use a different light. But it was just kind of like a photo that I thought the light was cool. I didn't like do a ton of planning.
Yeah.
From there, excuse me.
Totally. Do you want to talk a little bit about colors, like clothing? You know, what to do in. You know, that's another huge piece of the artistic direction of images. Do you want me to play that video?
Yes. Absolutely. Please play that video.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Best DJ ever.
Here we go.
Real quick, we can talk about clothes. So I'm a crazy person, and I organize my clothes based on color. And it's good to know if you're warm toned or cool toned. I'm going to toss another video and that'll show you. Basically, you want to look at your veins on your wrist, but understand how color can change mood, right? So if your home is very gray or very monochromatic, if you want to stand out, kind of like the photos I'm going to show you of my friend Noemi, then you want to mix in a warmer, cool color that is a little bit more vibrant. Maybe this pink. But if you feel like you're already in a very loud environment, one way for you to tell a story about the portrait of yourself or about yourself is to give yourself something that's a little more muted, a little more flat. Your colors, everything that's in the image that you choose to take for your self-portrait tells a story. And so journaling beforehand to help figure out how you're feeling in that moment, and then trying to bring that out in your photo is the next step.
Clothes, warm tones, cool tones.
Yes, super important. And we will, there's a link very clearly on my Instagram for it, and it explains a little bit more. But really quick, understanding your tones, and also a very long Twitter thread that is pinned that will explain it far better than I will in this moment. But why is this important? there are times when we take portraits, it almost feels like your skin is, or your body is like, there's some natural contrast between the color in the image and you. And so there are like editing ways to fix that, and et cetera. But when you're taking your self portraits, consider the clothes that you choose. Consider what mood the colors put you in, and like the best way to start that is, and if we're not doing the Steve Jobs thing where we like wear the same thing every day. Let's think about what clothes we choose to do when. Like wearing lucky socks as a kid. I was one of those kids who would who felt bad if I didn't wear some of my clothes. I'd feel like I felt like I was a very strange kid. And I would like feel sad that my clothes felt like I didn't like them. So that's a weird tangent. I don't know why I brought that up, but figuring out what your clothes mean to you and what mood you're in can be a good way to put yourself in a position to take a self-portrait or a selfie that you like. So just saying like, I'm going to try taking the same photo 3 times with 3 different outfits. And when you leave it, ask yourself like what you think is different besides the clothes. How does it make you feel? That self-discovery can be really valuable because you then might figure out, like this concept of warm and cool tones actually makes sense for me. I want to make sure when I'm taking my executive headshots or the New York Times is profiling me that I wear things that not only complement my skin, but my mood and what I'm trying to portray.
So how do you figure out whether you have warm tones or cool tones?
First you want to just look at your wrist, and on your wrist you should be able to see your veins. If they're bluer, then you have cool tones. If they are greener, then you have warm tones. This isn't like the most like absolute, like you should, if you're warm tone, you should never wear blue. Like, no, not at all. But there are examples that I should have definitely pulled up for this, my bad. Okay. That just like a portrait of my friend Ray I took where he's very warm toned and I put him on a blue background. And when we flash the lights on him, you can see his warm undertones almost be at a clash with this very like deep blue. And sometimes that clash is really helpful. And knowing that is cool, but it's like, do you look better wearing silver or gold? It's a question of wearing earth tones or wearing cool tones. Yeah. And they're just like little ways to kind of take your portraits to the next level, like an acknowledgement of what color means. I almost actually was going to wear an orange shirt today to illustrate this, and I promptly realized I had worn it already this week and have not washed anything. So after you check your wrist, literally just take the same portrait of you in a neutral setting with a couple different things: a neutral color like a gray or a black, a cooler color like a blue, and a warmer color like an orange. And then just you take like a close enough selfie to see what it looks like and what you think is different.
Yeah. For the idea of clothing, I wanted to just share some, if I could. I have. Oh. So the photo shoot I did earlier this year. Well, I just wanted to help illustrate like tonal differences that come with different clothing choices. So, this first photo, it's Anita laugh in the folder, Aundre.
I do.
So this one is like, it's kind of got a jacket. My hair is down. Like it's playful and fun, but it's like a little bit. I don't know how to compare it. When I show you the other photo, I'm gonna explain the difference. But like the choices that I made with my hair and my clothing, right? Like it's playful, but I'm still like full covered. You're not seeing a lot of skin. I'm wearing like a quote unquote business jacket kind of thing, right? Versus something like this, where let me pull this in.
Yeah.
So something like this, I'm actually going to text you, Aundre, because I didn't put this in the folder, which is the exact same photo shoot, but I'm wearing like a jumper and it's colorful and my hair is up and like it's a little bit of a younger tone. It's a little bit more of a, like the other one I think would be, I'd call it like playful snarky, where this one is just like a little bit more playful, and how the difference between the background colors, what I'm wearing, how I do my hair, like completely changes this. And so when I choose where to use these photos, like I make those choices, right? If I'm doing something a little more playful and fun and artistic, I'll probably use these blue background photos. If I'm doing something a little more serious or I want to be taken a little more seriously, I'll use those other photos, right? Like there's mixes of how you use those and I didn't know that it would come out that way. Like it wasn't a conscious choice. It's just I got the photos and was like, oh, this is what they feel like now. So
yeah.
Just wanted to share that as maybe some
Can you
illustration.
leave this up actually really quick?
Yeah, the blue background one.
Yeah, I really like your hair here. Another thing that helps is examine the difference between standing and sitting. If you are sitting, a stool I think is better than a chair. I think often with a back we're more likely to slouch, and slouching is almost never good. Um, Being really aware of what slouching does for your shoulders, for your neck, for your chest. Those are all things that just don't help anybody. But here, I think this is a good example. You turn your body a little bit. I like what you did with your hair, and most importantly, you chose like we're going from a really light, possibly a pink or a gray base color with a blue tiger, and then kind of blue in the back. And so there is something kind of interesting going on. If we look, I would guess that you have warm tones because we look
Yeah.
at this first image or the second image, we'll see like you will see that you look warm, maybe like a little even orange, not crazy orange, but just a little warmer, a little more tan, and we'll see what that looks like on this blue background. And then if we go back to this purple, it's you actually see it, you notice it less. It just doesn't. It's not something that you see as often. That's just something that's just a little more simple here, and especially in the purple background one or the dark pink or whatever. You're wearing also like earth tones, and it complements your skin a little bit better. But I think that they both do different things, and so just that awareness can be discovered through your own self-discovery of self-portraiture.
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
know.
And like these are, I had hair and makeup. These are professional studio shot. They're edited. They're like, all that shit. But but I don't look like that on, on the daily by any means.
She
But
definitely looks like that all the time.
I whatever. Anyways, but it's the same principle that you can apply to your selfies, right? It just those happen to be photos I had on hand to help illustrate some of that. So,
Yep.
yeah, this was a lot. This is a lot of really useful information that I think we can start applying right away, both in terms of like the photos we take of other people in our spaces and the photos we take of ourselves. You had said earlier as I was looking through my selfies, I realized I take a lot when I'm traveling because I travel alone a lot. And so it's a way for me to remember where I'm at and document myself in those moments, using the environments that I'm around. I tend to use mirrors in weird ways, which I didn't realize until I started digging into it. So, like, get experimental with it and playful with it. And, like, sometimes I take selfies and I just share them with friends. It's not like I put them on for the world to see or, Andre, you send the weirdest photos sometimes to people just as like in the middle of a chat, and it's a delightful way to, I think, stay connected to each other, especially in this moment
Yeah.
where a lot of us are alone. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it's easier. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, please.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I just think it's easier if you are used to seeing yourself and capturing yourself. I think it goes in the opposite. I think often people are like, "Oh, these kids, millennials and Gen Z, they're so conceited or what? I don't know, whatever it is." I think that normalizing how you look and feel, whether it's with hair and makeup, whether it's on your tired day, whether it's you at the beach, just getting comfortable with that is really valuable. And if you want to think about it a certain way, um, love yourself the way that you have that one family member that can never stop getting excited about seeing pictures of you. Every time my grandmother sees a photo of me doing anything, she's like, "I remember when you couldn't walk," and I'm like, "Okay, thank you." And she's like, "Send more," and I'm like, "All right,
That's so
I don't
sweet.
have anything else."
That's so
But
sweet.
yeah, that I think it's just helpful. That perspective of the life, the fact that you're experiencing life is more valuable than the fear you have of looking stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, we should maybe wrap this up. This was so wonderful. I think the audience got a lot out of this, and I really enjoyed the I think you articulate a lot of the issues that people have around how to take selfies and how to think about them in a way that is really accessible. And I know folks in chat were already talking about how they're like have their cameras out right now taking pictures as
Do
we're
it.
talking.
Do it. Tweet
Yeah.
all your selfies
Yeah,
at
yeah, yeah.
Anita. Tweet all your selfies at
Do
Anita.
it.
Do it.
Please do. As long as they're, appropriate.
Oh yeah. No. I only please only.
It's a thing I have to say. So yeah, like this was lovely. Thank you so much for being on. I encourage everyone, go follow his Instagram, see what he's up to. I think that the projects that you take on are really, really thoughtful and brilliant, in addition to being a wonderful photographer. And I know you shout out a lot of marginalized creators and really care about like making arts accessible and engaging. So yeah, please do that. The link, it's just Aundre, right? It's Instagram.com/AUNDRE.
That's my mom.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's Andre Iguodala. That's not me. I'm not a professional basketball player.
And if there's any other, is there any other projects specifically or any other things you want to shout out right now?
Just really quick, I want to shout out everyone that's at home that's trying to rediscover something that whether it's cooking or video games or whatever, this is a hard time. If you decide that you want to buy some black art, I currently have a print up that it's called Summer Skin. If you head over to anywhere I'm on the internet, you can see me share about it. But if you only do that if you've already donated to places and people that need it, like Equal Justice Initiative, the NCAA Bail Relief Fund, things like that. All of us need it right now. Read some more things about Black people and learn about how to be anti-racist. That's it.
Great. And we will link that in on the YouTube show notes as well for folks when that video is up as well, so that you can, go follow him everywhere, but also we'll share that. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate your time and all the prep you put into to doing this with us.
Thank you for publicly saying that we're friends now. This is a huge moment for me.
Great. I don't know if that's good for you or not, but here we are. All right, babe. Thanks so much. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I had such a lovely time on this episode, and I hope you did as well and got a lot out of it. I want to thank our mods for helping to keep this space safe. You are all doing really important work for us in this area. If you want to watch the video of this recording or the recording of this stream, you can do that at gameshotline.com. No, what is wrong with me? You can do that at youtube.com/gameshotline, as well as all the other videos from all the other episodes of Good Tips for Hard Times. So again, thank you for joining us and tuning in. Just so you know, the Games Hotline is a free resource for everyone, and it will be, and it'll be open very soon, I promise. So if you want to help us keep it that way, you can head over to gameshotline.org and chip in a few bucks to help us get it open and get it running. We're also building some online safety features and trying to do some work around supporting folks who have come out around abuse in the games industry as well. So, stay tuned. Follow us on all the social media for updates on that. And you can join me next week when we talk to Bijan Stevens about how to run your own charity streams so you can support all of the great organizations that are doing really important work right now. So thanks, everyone, and we will see you next week.